Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, it's interesting. When I ETS'd out of the Army years and years ago, it was go around, make sure that everything's cleared. You know, everybody's walking with their briefcase or their folder or whatever, and of course, on your folder it says I'm ETSing, I'm going back to the world or whatever. And to me, back then, that was it. I was applying to college. I was going to college. I had a mission. I was ready to go. But a lot of guys were like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to go home. I'm going to figure it out when I get home. And that seems to be the problem. Now, I live in a real military area next to a base, a lot of retirees, a lot of young folks that are coming home, and a lot of people that are trying to transition back into the kind of private sector. The biggest thing I see is, and I know the military's changed since I left, but the biggest thing I see is once they leave the military, there is a little bit of a gap there. And I know some of your organizations step up and take over that gap, and we've got some in my area. What do we do with those people that say that they've got it all figured out? They've done everything that they can. They're going to college, or they've got a job, or they've got everything worked out. Because some of those people might not have it worked out, and after a couple of years, they figure, what the heck am I doing? So do we have something that maybe not tracks them, but gives them that card and says, hey, look, we'd like to talk to you every couple of months, or we'd like to check in with you. Just make sure you're doing everything's going right.
Yes, sir. Good question. With our organization, with 0800, we have a case management system that drives those follow-on calls. So we have the initial call with them right after the class, and then they discuss their needs. And as you're kind of alluding to, their needs change over time. They may have everything all wired, and then 3 months later, they maybe aren't in that situation anymore. So those follow-on calls discuss their new needs and can connect them to resources, and all those calls are recorded in the case management system so that when that navigator goes back, he can refresh his memory on his conversation with the customer or client, and he can start the conversation from that point. But I think having that 21 months of those check-in calls can really help the transitioning service member.
Thank you, Mr. Knight. One other best practice that I've seen that seems to work pretty well that we might think about sharing with the services is the smaller organizations like Special Forces and the Navy SEAL, the Honor Foundation, Special Forces with Next Ridgeline. The foundations aligned with those outfits do a pretty good job of keeping track of guys as they go deeper into transition. It's a little easier to do that. But one thing, you know, that might be considered for a best practice is with the services, the foundations that are aligned with the services could possibly play a role in that deep tracking like that, because it's an involved process to do that. A lot of these guys go off the grid, and you know, and they kind of go dark, and it's hard to do, even in smaller organizations like Special Forces.
Mr. Chair, I want to thank you, and I want to thank these groups. You know, it's a difficult thing carrying a ruck one day in a desert, and then a month later you're in an office and you're looking around at a different environment. So it's a difficult transition. I appreciate what you're doing.